second estate planning bootcamp session of 6. We had one last month. We'll be having one next month, one in June, and then we're going to take a couple of months off. And then the remaining 2 sessions will be in September and October. And it's a boot camp that's designed to get you into estate planning shape. You know, so you go to boot camps, you work out. Some of you may, some of you may not. But if you do, this is trying to give you tools that you can use in your practice to make you a better financial planner, financial advisor, insurance advisor, CPA, whatever it is that you do. And our objective is to give you as much information as you can absorb in each session, take back, use in your practice. And then, in addition, we're going to focus in the second half of this session on professional collaboration, working with each other, working with estate planning attorneys, how to pick an estate planning attorney, what the best one is. It's not just us. There are others around the area that you work with, and you want to expand your network. It's the best thing for your practice. And so, who is the right person to work with for any particular given client? So that's our objective today. Today, the first section is focusing on hidden risks, estate planning mistakes that you want your clients to avoid and you want to avoid as well. And when I look at estate planning, it's really centered around 3 primary goals. The first goal is to maintain control of your assets during your life, including in the event of your incapacity. So if you become incapacitated, how do we maintain control over our assets, over our affairs, and still do the right thing for ourselves and our family? Estate planning is also ensuring efficient wealth transfer at death. And the third goal is, and it's probably the most important one that we spend a lot of time on in our sessions, is protecting our beneficiaries from themselves and from others, from creditors and from predators. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of people who everyone knows, and they made some devastating mistakes in their lives or didn't do anything to plan for their estates. And as an incentive to keep you all focused on this, there is a mistake in this slide. So the first person to identify the mistake in this slide is a recipient of my fantastic Blueprint for Wealth Succession Trustee Manual. Anyone? First one to answer correctly?
Assuming we can see it.
I told you that there is a handout in there. So James Dean died without a will. That's what intestate is.
Is it licensing fees from $1 to $3 million annually?
No. 5,
It actually didn't go to his father.
3, 2. He didn't die at age 29. He died at age 24. He died at age 24 in 1955 in an automobile crash, driving his new Porsche 550 Spider that he had bought, and he was planning to race it the very next day. And a guy by the name of Bob Turnip Good or something like that hit him on a highway in California as he was driving, and he was only going around 55 miles an hour when he got killed. So think about it. But he died without a will, and at the time of his death, his estate was worth about $96,000 in 1955 dollars, which is not that much, but it's not that little. The bigger issue was the licensing fees that were generated from the use of his likeness, from his movies, from his royalties, averaged, and still average, $1 to $3 million a year to this day. In the highest year, it was $8.5 million of revenue was generated from James Dean. And because of his intestacy, the assets were left to his father, who basically forced him out of the house after his mother died at the age of 10, 8, something like that. and made him live with his aunt and uncle. And he never saw his father again. And his father ended up inheriting all this wealth. So, again, let's try to plan ahead of time. One more book is available on this slide. No mistakes, but the question is, name one of the movies that he was in that he was nominated for an Academy Award posthumously. There were two.
John.
I knew you were. Johnny. Anybody else for the second movie?
Rebel Without a Cause.
Who said that? You can't have it. You can't get two books. You're right, Rebel Without a Cause. And he was in East of Eden. Those were the three big movies. In 1 year, he produced these three movies. Amazing. Marilyn Monroe says she died at age 36, that the will left 75% of her estate. She died with a will, but she left 75% of her estate to Lee Strasberg, who was the famous acting coach, and he was a director and an actor as well. And the unintended consequence of doing this was that she really indicated in her will that she wanted Lee to donate these assets to charity. But what happened was Lee got married to his third or fourth wife. She ended up inheriting most of Marilyn Monroe's estate, and none of it went to charity. All right, so for a book on this slide, all you trivia buffs, what was Marilyn Monroe's real name? Norma Jean is correct. I'll give you that. Not Baker. Norma Jean Mortensen was her name. And for the last book on this slide, who was she? What famous baseball player was she married to? Who said that first? Are you sure you said it first? So pass that back. He gets the book. Joe DiMaggio. She was also married to Arthur Miller, and my partner, Jimmy Kettleman, has pictures in his office of Marilyn Monroe when she was staying at Arthur Miller's residence in D.C. in the 1950s, and he was assigned as a teenager to escort her in the neighborhood to make sure that she wasn't accosted. So he's got pictures of her coming in and out of the house and getting in the car, and it's like, wow, that's really cool. Barbara Hutton, not Betty Hutton. Who was Betty Hutton? Different person. Betty Hutton was a famous actress and singer, and around the same time as Barbara Hutton lived. But Barbara Hutton was the heiress to the Woolworth fortune, F.W. Woolworth fortune. And she was the granddaughter of the founder. And at age 10, she inherited $25 million in trust. In today's dollars, that's worth about $340 million. That's a lot of money. By 1933, it had doubled in value, and the trust ended when she turned 21. So we see this a lot with our clients. My client says, look, when the kids are 21 or 25 or 30 or 35, I want them to get access to their assets. I don't want to rule from the grave, you hear repeatedly. Okay, well, this is what happened when she got her assets at age 21. She went into a series of marriages. By the time she was 46, she had been married 7 times. She squandered the entire fortune. At the age of 66, she died a drug addict, an alcoholic, with $3,000 in the bank. Again, structuring trusts properly, even if you have one, is important for us as advisors. Last example of celebrity mistakes is John Denver. Among the many things that he failed to do was he failed to pay an insurance premium. And all you insurance folks out there will appreciate this. It was a $1 million insurance policy on his life. The premium for him in that year was $2,350. And he decided that it wasn't important enough to pay the $2,350. Well, when he died, his estate, which was worth upwards of $19 million, could have used that money because there was a $6 or $7 million income tax liability that hadn't been paid. And so the insurance went away. He did not properly designate a pension beneficiary. He had a 401k or an IRA. And basically it triggered immediate taxation of the IRA through the estate, had to go through probate. Nothing was left to his heirs in the end. Name a U.S. president for a book that did not have a will. Famous, very famous U.S. president. Nope. Think Civil War. Abraham Lincoln. Grant also didn't have a will. Andrew Johnson didn't have a will. They were all presidents in succession, weren't they? They were all lawyers. Huh? And they were all lawyers. You want to pass that back to Mr. West? So again, the risks in estate planning really should center around the ultimate goals of estate planning, which we talked about. And the first mistake is, and probably the most important one, is failing to address healthcare decisions. Did you know that 70% of all deaths occur in hospitals and nursing homes? 70%. It's an incredible percentage. My 17-year-old son this morning, when I told him about that, said, well, yeah, Dad, I mean, everybody dies in the hospital, right? Okay. Reasonable. What that means is, because today we have better health care, we're able to span the time period within which people can function, but they may not be totally capacitated. It expands that time frame that they may be incapacitated. So we need planning, not only over healthcare, but over financial affairs, because that time period has been extended. Terry Schiavo is the classic case of a conflict involving family members where no decisions had been made regarding her end-of-life decisions. She was a young, beautiful woman. She fell in her apartment, became permanently injured when she fell. She struck her head on a doorknob and then fell to the floor. It basically rendered her into a persistent vegetative state. She became a vegetable at that point in time. They didn't really know, because you heard people on television who were arguing whether or not she was, in fact, permanently disabled or permanently vegetative, because they saw her, video of her, actually her eyes were moving and it looked like she was responsive to things that were going on. Posthumously, after she died, they did an autopsy and they found that she was, in fact, a vegetable. She was brain dead. It was just involuntary reflexes. But there was no decision maker, and her husband was forced to expend all of their assets fighting her parents, who wanted her to remain on life support in the form of intubated nutrition. They wanted her to continue receiving nutrition and hydration. They were devout Catholics, and under the Roman Catholic faith, based on John Paul XXIII, Vatican II, you have to continue providing nutrition and hydration, whereas the husband said that's not what she wanted. Well, she never expressed what she wanted in writing. And the failure to express what she wanted in writing was ultimately led to the Florida Supreme Court, which allowed her life to be terminated, life-prolonging procedures to be terminated, but they basically blew through all of their funds in debating this. It's incumbent on us to advise our clients to get living wills and health care